This week on the show, we're looking at how Drax is out, Sonja is in a quiet place that's getting kinda loud, killer clowns being banned in 40 countries, big-ass zombie penises, and more right here on the JARcast. Welcome everybody to episode 17 of the JARcast Movie Podcast. I am Jake from Jacob Anders Reviews, your host on this May 11th, 2021. It's Tuesday night. If you're watching this at the premiere, if not, it's sometime later on. Thank you either way for watching it. I got quite a few stories to go over this week per usual. However, I am going to do my best to try and keep this one a little bit more brief compared to the past few weeks. Podcast's been getting a little bit long there, closer to that 2-hour mark. I'm going to try and keep it around that hour mark so as to not waste anybody's time. So in trying to keep with that, let's jump into our first story, and it's something about big old thingies. I'm talking about no zombie penises for Army of the Dead. Zack Snyder's upcoming Netflix zombie epic, Army of the Dead, boasts an R rating, but even the filmmaker knows there's a limit to what he can do on screen. Case in point, there's one sequence Snyder removed from Army of the Dead because it pushed the boundary too far. The director recently answered yes when asked by the Sunday Times if any of the film crossed a line, adding, "We had a sequence where one of the male strippers had a huge penis with a bite taken out of it. We thought that was probably too much." For Snyder, Army is a return to the zombie genre after his feature directorial debut, Dawn of the Dead. That film was a remake of George A. Romero's movie of the same name, and Snyder is once again applying Romero's mindset to his latest zombie project. George Romero said it was all social commentary, Snyder told the Sunday Times, and we felt obligated to do that with this movie, editorialize a little bit, and zombie movies are a great place to talk about us as people. Ours is a monster movie where the monster is us. It's a social movie where more than a science movie. The science is pretty iffy. Snyder also wanted to push his zombies into new territory. A subset of the undead in Army of the Dead have advanced to the point of being able to open doors and organize into groups. The director said, "I wanted to endeavor, like any good villain, to make the zombies as sympathetic as possible. I want to get you on Team Zombie." Army of the Dead will open in select theaters May 14th before streaming on May 21st on Netflix. So yeah, all that's a fair amount of information. There was a little bit more in this article too about Army of the Dead, which I'm looking forward to. Zack Snyder's triumphant return to the zombie genre. And really, I think this is his first movie that's not a superhero movie that's for a while, not a DC movie. But the thing that stuck out to me and most everybody else was the zombie penis scene that was removed. And why? Why would you not leave that in there? That would have been so fucking memorable, of this zombie with this large dong walking around, zombie stripper with a bite taken out of it. I mean, it couldn't have possibly been like a center point for the movie or anything. It was probably just one of them walking around in kind of a ha-ha moment. That would have been great, man. That would have been hilarious. I mean, just go all in. I hate that they removed that. I am looking forward to this movie and hoping it's good. The trailer looked pretty good. Looks like it's going to have a bit of a sense of humor, which is, I think, how these movies work best, with some cool action. But man, it could have had a great, even more sense of humor with giant bite taken out of a dong zombie. Where's that guy? I need that deleted scene whenever it comes out. Hopefully the movie will still be okay, even though there's no, giant bitten dongs in it. Either way, though, I am looking forward to Army of the Dead, some Dave Bautista and Zack Snyder action coming. I think this is the first time they've teamed up together. And yeah, regardless if we get no bitten dongs or not, I'm looking forward to it. So, and hopefully, if it obviously exists. He said that they cut it out of the film. They made it sound as if they filmed it. So if it was filmed, we will see it at some point. So I'm really looking forward to that deleted scene. How we will get it or not, because this is an online movie, I don't know. That seems like something maybe YouTube might frown upon putting on their site. Giant zombie dick with bites taken out of it. But who knows? YouTube is really weird about what they allow on there and not, dependent upon who puts it on there. So I guess we'll find out sometime after May 21st, and we'll also find out, or May 14th, if Army of the Dead is any good. I myself am personally looking forward to it. Speaking of Dave Bautista, we're going to jump into something with him that is a little bittersweet, and that is that Dave Bautista is apparently leaving Marvel and the Guardians of the Galaxy. Dave Bautista has been one of the most outspoken cast members of the Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe one of the most candid actors out there today. The wrestler turned Hollywood actor was one of James Gunn's biggest defenders when the filmmaker was abruptly fired from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 by Disney in 2018, and was subsequently rehired 1 year later, by the way. Bautista seems to believe that his increasing age makes his future playing Drax the Destroyer over after the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. He suggests on Twitter this weekend that the character could live on, but he himself would be too old to play the part and would bow out of the role. In an interview with Digital Spy, Bautista said, "There were talks for a while about a Drax and Mantis film. It was really because it was James Gunn's idea," he said. He really wanted to do a Drax and Mantis film. He laid it out to me. I thought it was such a brilliant idea, but I haven't heard any follow-up from the studio. I don't think they're very interested, or it doesn't fit into the way they have things mapped out. But other than that, no. I mean, as far as my obligations, I've got Guardians 3, and that's probably going to be the end of Drax. Bautista jokingly responded to a headline reporting on Digital Spy news of Drax leaving the MCU. Drax isn't going anywhere. He just won't be played by this dude. By the time G3, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, comes out, I'll be 54 years old. For God's sake, I'm expecting everything to start sagging any second now. James Gunn also chimed in on Twitter to support his actor and friend. "There's no Drax for me without you, buddy. You are the MCU's Drax the Destroyer, and as far as I'm concerned, could never be replaced. And you have the right to do whatever you want with your acting choices." It was recently announced in Marvel's Phase 4 presentation video last week that Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy 3 will hit theaters on May 5th, 2023. Marvel Studios hasn't announced plans for the Guardians beyond the holiday special for Disney+, which is said to be shooting alongside the third film. Gunn himself hasn't exactly closed the door on future stories. If G3 is I really hope they don't call it G3. That's ever since T2, everybody wants to do that, but it just doesn't work here. Anyway, if G3 is indeed the last time we see Bautista as Drax, we'll at least see him 3 more times in total. The actor, along with other Guardians members, was spotted on the set of Taika Waititi's Thor: Love and Thunder in Sydney, New South Wales, Australia, confirming the reports the cosmic team would feature in the 4th Thor movie before their appearance in Gunn's Volume 3. And Gunn suggests, while he is also presumably winding down his time as a Marvel and Guardians director, never say never is always a good attitude to adopt with such proclamations. I'm cool with this. I mean, I get where Bautista's coming from. I mean, I don't think 54 is too old. I mean, look at a lot of other Hollywood actors that do action. But I mean, maybe he's making jokes about things sagging and all that. That guy's like super in shape. I don't think anything's sagging on that dude. But well, actually, as badass as he is, there's only one thing that's sagging, and that's a good thing. But anyway, I don't think. Maybe it's not like a physical thing. Maybe he's just like, I just don't want to do it anymore. I've done my part. I've done, this 3 movies. I've completed this, or actually more than 3 movies, because they were in the the Avengers movies too, and they're apparently going to be in Thor. So maybe he's like, I feel like I've completed my arc with this character. I do wonder if they will recast the character or if they'll kill him off or how that'll work. So because like James Gunn said, there is no Drax without you. But you know what? Gunn doesn't own Guardians of the Galaxy. Disney does, and as we've seen in the past, Disney's going to do what the fuck Disney wants to do. But I'm cool with this. I mean, I've really enjoyed Bautista's role in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies up to this point. Of course, we haven't seen season 3 or episode 3. Now, episode 3, volume 3, but I'm sure that he's going to do great in it as he has up to this point. Now, he did say something interesting about a proposed Drax and Mantis film. I don't know that. I mean, that could be cool. I think he would be good in it. He's pretty good in everything he's in. He's always very likable. He's got that kind of like that charisma, if you will, that The Rock has. Maybe not quite to Rock levels, but Bautista's pretty damn charismatic. I don't know if a Drax and Mantis film would fly, but I mean, he said that James Gunn came up with it himself, and James Gunn has proved to be a formidable writer. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He writes good, exciting, fun movies. So it doesn't surprise me that they don't want to go that route because both of those characters are kind of more, I'm not going to say unknown, but they're not as big as some of the other big ones, which is odd to me. That's Disney just doing its Disney thing because the vast majority of the MCU, not all of them, of course, but a lot of the biggest characters in the MCU started out as what a lot of people consider B-level characters. Iron Man, he was a known property, but he was not the Iron Man he is now before 2008. Iron Man was kind of seen as kind of a B-tier character, if you will. And now, if you're an Iron Man lover and you were before, I'm sure you guys are out there. Don't hate. I'm just speaking facts. I'm talking about the general populace as a whole did not see Iron Man on the same level as, say, someone like Captain America or like go to DC side like a Batman or Superman. Is what it is. I mean, now, yeah, he definitely is, but before 2008, no, sir, he was not. And a lot of the MCU characters are like that. They're just not as well known in the popular zeitgeist, and who knows? I mean, it sounds like that's where they're going with this whole Drax and Mantis thing. They're just kind of discounting it because they're not big enough, but that's where all your characters started, as not big enough, and now look at them. But hey, like I said, Disney going to do what Disney going to do, but it sounds like Bautista's going to do what Bautista's going to do too, and I wish the guy well, and I hope he knocks it out of the park with Guardians 3 and Thor Love and Thunder. And I'm looking forward to seeing both of those films, especially Guardians. I've always really liked them. They've always been a little bit apart from the rest of the MCU, and I've liked that. So I'm really looking forward to both those movies and can't wait to check them out on, I think it was like May 2023. So we're quite a ways away from it. So we don't have to worry about Bautista leaving Guardians of the Galaxy anytime soon. But eventually, yeah, it sounds like it's going to happen. Now, speaking of friends leaving friends, I have a story I'm going to go over here real quick. And I recently said when speaking to some of the people here on the channel that listen to me regularly, as we call them, jarheads. I know, but whatever. My regulars, if you will, that I had felt like I had fallen into with the podcast on some of the stories I've been going over into a bit of a negative rut with some of them, not all of them. And I tend to go on some rants about some things that I feel personally are kind of shitty that go on in the world. Lots of shitty stuff going on in the world. And I said, I want to get away from that. I don't really like doing that stuff. I'm going to try and exclude that stuff. And this week was tough. I was going through all the news stories, and I would find something, oh, well, that seems interesting. And of course, it ended up becoming a story about something that was just going to go off into some bullshit. And it was I had to cut out a lot of stories down to what I got. But there was one story. It does involve some negativity. I'm going to try and keep it as non-negative and ranty as possible. But it was one that was just so big that really bothered me that I wanted to talk about real quick. And it does involve two people. Well, more than two people, but this particular, the mains here are two people. One in particular, I just think that I don't typically give a shit what someone, like an actor or director or whatever, does in their personal time. I don't care. You do you, okay? But there are some performers out there that I think are just pretty shitty damn people. And this particular person I'm finding over time, I think, is more and more shitty. And his alliances, if you will, or allegiances shift depending on what's hot at the moment. And I really don't like that. Now, what I'm talking about is the best friend anyone out there could have, and that is Seth Rogen and James Franco. Let's jump into this real quick. This is a snippet of the whole story. I'm going to give my opinions on it. Once again, I know what this story and a little bit more, but let's just jump into this real quick. James Franco faced allegations of sexual misconduct from 5 different women back in 2018, and since then the actor hasn't been too busy in Hollywood. At the time of the accusations, longtime friend and collaborator, I can't speak tonight, once again, Seth Rogen said that he would still keep working with his Pineapple Express and The Interview co-star in the future. However, according to a new interview with the Superbad star, his attitude on that front has changed, and now he has no plans to work with James Franco again. Seth Rogen was recently interviewed for the Sunday Times in the United Kingdom. During their chat, he was asked about the accusations made by Knocked Up co-star Charlene Yee on Instagram back in April, with regards to enabling James Franco's sexual misconduct. In the post, Yee explains that she didn't want to keep a role she signed on for in The Disaster Artist once the allegations against Franco came to light. Yee said, "I don't feel safe working with a fucking sexual predator, especially since she heard about Franco abusing other women during the week these allegations surfaced." In response, apparently Yee was offered a bigger role in the movie, but she still wanted no part in the production. She was especially uneasy thinking about a joke from Saturday Night Live back in 2014. Which made light of a publicized situation where Franco had been accused of engaging with underage girls on Instagram. Rogen didn't directly address having any knowledge of the situation with Charlene Yee on The Disaster Artist, a film on which he was a producer, and he actually acted in it too. I believe he played one of the directors. Anyway, but when asked whether he believes Yee's accusations, Rogen said, "What I can say is that I despise abuse and harassment, and I would never cover or conceal the actions of someone doing it, or knowingly put someone in a situation where they were around someone like that. However, I do look back at the joke I made on Saturday Night Live in 2014, and I very much regret making that joke. It was a terrible joke, honestly." So where does that leave Rogen and Franco? Rogen stopped short of saying that he's no longer friends with Franco, saying, "I don't know if I can define that right now." During this interview, I can say, it has changed many things in our relationship and our dynamic. That includes having any plans to do work with Franco. Rogen addressed his previous comments about his willingness to work with Franco again, even after the accusation surfaced in 2018. I look back to that interview in 2018 where I comment that I would keep working with James, and the truth is that I have not, and I do not plan to right now. Seth Rogen and James Franco have been friends since their breakthrough role on the short-lived but beloved series Freaks and Geeks in 1999. They became a potent comic duo at the box office too. So it has to be a challenge for Rogen knowing that someone that he considered a close friend did something so heinous. We're going to get back to that sentence. He acknowledges that it's been a painful experience, but he also said it's not as painful and difficult as it is for a lot of other people involved. There is one more, the last paragraph here I'm going to read in just a minute, but I want to comment on this other stuff first, because the last paragraph is when things get a little bit out there. It's only like 2 sentences. But anyway, pretty much what's, just to put it all in perspective, James Franco there were allegations of sexual abuse, or sexual misconduct rather, that came up towards James Franco from a few women. I'm pretty sure it was all women, back in 2018. And it pretty much, like we see many times, and I've discussed on this channel a bunch of times, it wrecked his career. You haven't seen the guy do shit since then, really. Because nobody will work with him. But the key word here, and I've said this, I cannot tell you how many times, is allegations. I believe we as a human race need to look up what the fuck allegations mean, because it has not progressed beyond that. I look to see if it's gone to court or if anything else has come beyond these allegations that happened in 2018, and there's not nothing I could find. I'm not saying there's not anything, but there's nothing I could find. There's nothing readily available to us, and I feel like there would be. There's no other allegation. Okay, you got these people that came together and said, we're going to say something. They said it, ruined his life, ruined his career, and then nothing came of it. Nobody. Let me tell you, if I felt as if I was raped or whatever they're claiming, I would go to the fucking police. I would take put a suit against him or whatever you call it, or file charges. I wouldn't just throw it out there and then go along my day, whatever. No, I wouldn't just let it go. So why did these people say these things? And then what? It's 2021. This was 2018. That's 18. 19, 20. We're talking about 4 years. 4 years ago, nothing's really happened. 3 or 4 years ago, and nothing else has happened about it. At what point do people say, I mean, what about that stuff? You threw something out there, but we never really got any proof, or nobody was like convicted or anything like that. But we kind of canceled this guy that was kind of on the rise and doing he's really a very well-respected actor and director at that point. I think The Disaster Artist was nominated for some Academy Awards. It may have won one. I can't remember, but you threw this guy. I mean, everybody just took it and said, okay. And now even his best friend, which is what really brings this to me, Seth Rogen and James Franco apparently were really close friends, supposedly. Not just that, that's what they worked together so much. They were really good friends. And your friend, because not once in this thing does it say anything was confirmed. Not once does it say there was proof. Not once, nothing. It's just allegations come up. And so Seth Rogen's like, oh, that's a bad look if I'm around you. So he just distanced himself. I want nothing to do with you now. I'm not going to have your back. I mean, I get distancing yourself some, and maybe it's like, okay, well, let me help you get through this thing or something, or let me stand with you or something. But no, they won't. Nobody wants to be that social pariah. And what a douche move that this guy's just like, hey, I'm your best friend. We're best buds and all this. And as long as it looks good for me, I'm going to be there next to you, and I'm going to be ride or die until not. And then he just walks away from the guy and just ditches him. Now, I mean, if there's some proof out there that I was just unable to see that it shows that he really was doing all this stuff and not just allegations, okay, that's a different story. But that's not the story that I'm getting. That's not even the story that this story is telling. Now, it is, as the story goes along, I don't know if you noticed, it does slowly, it starts out saying allegations were made, accusations, allegations. And then as you get to the bottom, it speaks about it as if the situations were fact. It no longer uses those words, and it says these things he did, and these terrible crimes, and these awful things he did to these people. And it's like, wait. At some point between the beginning of this article and the end, did he get convicted? I mean, did we come up? Maybe he did it. Maybe he didn't. I have no fucking idea, and neither does anybody else that's going around saying he did it. That's my problem. I think I had a similar issue with this last week with a story with Noel Clark. They're allegations, and where people's lives are being ruined over allegations. Nothing more. No proof, nothing. None of that is going. It's just allegations. That's wrong, man. That's wrong. That's the world we fucking live in right now, and that's fucking sad. People should be scared, and I just can't get behind that. Now, the one thing about this article that really irritated me is I was reading it, I did notice how it was kind of swaying towards the, hey, he's, done the bad thing and all this. It went from allegations to fact, if you will, the way that it's written. It's very, I didn't like that. I picked up on that by the time of the end. But the last paragraph here, they go hard on it. And they talk about, I mean, this last paragraph, if I just read it to you, isn't saying anything. It's not, they're not allegations. I think it says accusations at one point, but it talks about it as if it's fact. Let me read what it says here. This is more of an opinionated piece, by the way. It says, with so many accusations lobbied against James Franco. I think it was 5. If I read correctly, I could be wrong, but I think it was 5 women. Anyway, with so many accusations lobbied against James Franco, it doesn't seem like there's any hope for him to make a comeback, especially in the era of the Hashtag Me Too movement. It would take a lot of effort for Franco to be able to redeem himself and repent for what he's done. If that ever happens, maybe Rogan would reconsider his stance. But for now, we're glad that he's on the side of the victims and has seen the error of his ways. That's much more important than ever seeing Pineapple Express 2. What the actual fuck? Are you a reporter or do you write opinionated puff pieces, motherfucker? Because this is some opinionated shit. You took something that started out and you, of your own volition, say these are accusations, they're allegations, no proof, no nothing. Nothing has gone to court. Nothing's happened. There's nothing that can be proved yet. But no, because someone said it, or 5 people, I guess, said it, that means it's true. And I know you're like, well, 5 people said it. That's more than his one person. Yeah, but he's fucking famous and rich. Let's be real. This is the world we live in. He's famous and fucking rich. And people know nowadays if they say something like that, it'll get them in the limelight. Maybe get them a book deal. Maybe get them something. I don't know. People just like tearing people down. Plus, there's some money at the end of that rainbow. So maybe he did do it. And if he did do it, okay, bad on him. Fuck him. Whatever the law decides is what he gets. But I don't like how we're executing before we're even having a trial. I mean, that's like anybody could walk up to somebody and say, hey, that person, punched or hit me. They robbed me. Who did? That guy right there. Well, how do you know? It's him. I said it is. And that's it. I mean, if I go to the police and say, hey, this person stole a $10,000 diamond ring from me, I need it back and I need you to arrest them. And what if you could just walk up to the police and say that, and the police just went and arrested them? That wouldn't be right. No, because you have no proof. How are you going to arrest that person? There's no proof. Exactly. Same thing's happened to this guy. His fucking career is ruined. Ruined. Because somebody said something. That's it. Once again, I will stand with you and say, if he did it, fuck him. Okay, whatever. But we're jumping to conclusions before he even did. I know some people will take situations like this, and if it ever does go to court, which I doubt it ever will, I doubt there will ever be anything more than these accusations because they did what they wanted to do. If it ever does and it comes out that, okay, here's proof, this, he did do it. He's a terrible person. He's just a fucking rapist or whatever. Okay. But then you'll have people say, see, we told you so. No, that's not I told you so. You had a 50-50 chance. You don't fucking know that. Just because it worked out. Because there's been other people that have been accused. Their lives have been fucked up. And they didn't do anything. Or they didn't do the things they were being accused of. That's for damn sure. So, I'm not going to go any further on this one. I think Seth Rogen's just kind of a douche. He's done a lot of other shit out there. And I used to really like the guy's movies. And I stand by, if he's in a good movie, I'll still see it. And I can watch an actor for who they are, for just the performance they're giving. But him as a person, I'm not thrilled about him. I've seen all these other shitty things he's just kind of done, and he seems like he sways back and forth depending on what the populace is saying. It's like whatever's going to keep him out of hot water, he's right there with everybody, like on the it's whatever's big in the moment. I'm here, I'm championing with you. And I'm just like, dude, you have no balls. You don't back anything really. You back whatever's popular in the moment, and you just do whatever you can to stay in the world's good graces. And I don't know, that's kind of fucked up. I don't think he had to necessarily like champion James Franco, but he didn't have to ditch the guy either. I mean, once again, unless he knows something that we don't, I really don't know. But that's not out there, so I can only go off the information I have. And right now, and some of the other shit you've done and said, you look like a douche. But yeah, let's stop canceling people. I'm sure my little podcast here is going to change the world on that. But let's just stop canceling people because of allegations. How about you're innocent until proven guilty? Whatever happened to that? But that just doesn't apply in the public opinion, I guess, in the public court. So, anywho, on to something a little bit happier, or happy for me, that I really like. And we're going to be jumping into a remake. I guess it's a remake. I don't know if it's a remake because it's probably just it's a fucking remake. We're going to jump into and talk about Red Sonja for a minute. She has been cast. They're remaking Red Sonja, or at least they're making a new version of Red Sonja. If you're not familiar with Red Sonja, it's where I know it was a comic book first, but I was introduced to Red Sonja with the movie from the 80s. that branched off of Conan. Not officially, because at that point there was some like rights issues and Conan couldn't be in the movie, even though Red Sonja started in Conan, and I don't know the whole thing. I think it had something to do with like Marvel and somebody else, whatever. But let's read this story real quick and find out who our new Red Sonja is. Hannah John Kamen, best known as the villain Ghost in Ant-Man and the Wasp, will wield the sword of the comic book fantasy hero Millennium Films' long-gestating feature adaptation of Red Sonja. Joey Soloway, Transparent, is directing the film from a script by Soloway and Tasha Hu, a writer on Netflix's upcoming Tomb Raider TV series. Really? There's a Tomb Raider TV series? How did I not know this? It's going to be live action? Huh. Well, Netflix has a Tomb Raider TV series, Scoop, and it's upcoming. That's about all I know about it. Anyway, on with this story. Hannah is a very talented actress who we've been following for years, and she is Red Sonja. Soloway said in a statement, "Her range, sensibilities, and strength are all qualities we've been looking for, and we couldn't be more excited to embark on this journey together." Created in the early 1970s by Roy Thomas and Barry Windsor Smith for Marvel's Conan the Barbarian comics, Red Sonja quickly became popular enough for her own spin-off series. That is certainly due in part to the character's formidable fighting skills and forthright personality, and also because she was typically clad in a chainmail bikini that seemed less about providing protection for the character than titillation for the largely heterosexual male readership. That's you damn right it was. The Red Sonja and Conan comics eventually left Marvel and landed at Dynamite Entertainment, which is where Millennium is basing its adaptation. This could mark a major career step for the British-born John Kamen, who started her career in the UK series like Happy Valley, Cucumber, and The Tunnel. Coincidentally, one of John Kamen's first breakout roles was as a character named Sonja in the Black Mirror episode Playtest. I remember that episode. I love Black Mirror, by the way. Was that her? I guess that was her. She wasn't the lead in it, I don't believe. But yeah, if that's the episode I'm thinking, I've seen them all. If that's the episode I'm thinking about, that was a really cool episode. With Wyatt Russell, yeah, that's that episode. She also appeared on Game of Thrones, Killjoys, and Brave New World, and played supporting roles in 2018's Tomb Raider with Alicia Vikander, and in Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One. That's right, she was that kind of the lackey for the bad guy. She recently wrapped production as the lead in Sony's reboot of the Resident Evil franchise from writer-director Johannes Roberts. Red Sonja was adapted to a feature film in 1985 starring Bridget Nielsen, that's the one I loved when I was a kid, with Arnold Schwarzenegger in a supporting role, and directed by Richard Fleschner, I think is how you pronounce that. Since then, however, Red Sonja has repeatedly bounced around Hollywood, but never quite made it to the green light until now. This is cool because I really like Conan the Barbarian, and I really like Red Sonja. Red Sonja was really cool, but Conan the Barbarian was the best of them. Then Red Sonja, and then Conan the Destroyer. But yeah, the 1985 movie, I definitely have a lot of good memories of that movie. It was weird though, because back then, like I said, it was something to do with the rights. Like one of them, I guess at this point, they said that they left Marvel and went over to this other a comic company. I guess they got bought. I guess they weren't bought at the same time, because I remember that was the whole thing why Arnold Schwarzenegger was in it, pretty much playing Conan, but his name wasn't Conan because they couldn't legally put Conan in that movie. Or something like that. I don't know. There's a whole thing about it. Look it up. But yeah, this young woman, Hannah John Kamen, I remember her in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I thought she was good as a villain there. And it looks like she's had a lot of other like smaller or supporting roles over the years. I guess she'll be good for it. I can't really comment on that offhand. I mean, the most notable thing, like they said, is the Ant-Man and the Wasp thing. That's what I know her from the most. That's her most memorable thing to me thus far. She was fine. She was good in that. I mean, I enjoyed the character, I suppose. She didn't really talk a lot, which is fine. Red Sonja is not a big talker, but Red Sonja is a badass. And looking at this picture of her, I could see it. Now, the one thing that a lot of people have been saying is, yeah, but she doesn't have red hair, and that's one of Red Sonja's like defining traits. And people have been making a big fucking deal about that. And I'm like, yeah, it's called hair dye, you know? They do it quite a bit in movies. I mean, she doesn't have red hair. Okay, my wife doesn't have red hair either, but sometimes she does because hair dye is a thing. So, I mean, I don't really see that being the biggest issue here. I want to know, is she going to be able to, I mean, I think she can probably handle the physicality part of things because in Ant-Man and the Wasp, she was pretty physical from what I remember, bouncing around all over the place. So she's got that down. We'll just see if she's got the bravado that Sonja had, because that's something. Red Sonja is more or less a female version of Conan. So you want her to just have that kind of badass bravado, and we'll see if she's able to bring that or not. Excuse me. We'll see if she's able to bring that or not, and because it really, if she could bring that, if she brings that bravado that Sonja has, then that will make up for anything else that's missing. That's the main key ingredient for Sonja. She's got to be a badass and have that super cool badass bravado that Sonja has. So we'll find out. There's not a release date for this movie as of yet, but we'll probably find out here in the next couple of years. If they've already cast their main actress, that means they're pretty far along. They've got a scriptwriter, they've got directors, all that. So probably going to start. It's going to start filming here anytime soon. So me, myself, personally, I know this isn't the biggest story in the world, but I have, it's part of my childhood. Red Sonja, really enjoyed the movie, really loved it. Haven't seen it in years. I might have to go back and watch it now. I remember really liking it, but I am quite the Conan fan, so that might be part of it too. So looking forward to this coming up in the next couple of years whenever we finally do get to see it. Now, speaking of old things from the 80s coming back, I got one that I never thought I was going to see again. I never thought this property was going to pop back up, and yeah, it's back. And any kid that grew up in the 80s, and maybe even the 90s too, will know this name, and probably the box art most of all of this VHS from back in the day. And I'm talking about the Faces of Death. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Faces of Death is making a triumphant return, but not in the way that you think. According to the story here, if you grew up in the era of video stores, you probably know all about Faces of Death. Even if you never rented a copy, the VHS cover art was designed to shock and titillate, featuring the leering skull and boasting a claim that the film was banned in 40-plus countries. It gained infamy as something akin to a snuff film. But here's the twist. Most of the death in the movie was fake, staged with makeup effects. That broke my heart when I found that out, by the way. I mean, I found out like some years later or ago, probably about 10 or so years ago, but that really broke my heart. Anyway, not that people were dying. That sounds bad, but you know what I mean. That was just kind of its whole thing. But it's fake as day. And while the film was banned in some places, it definitely was not banned in 40-plus countries. It was all a ruse to make Faces of Death all the more shocking and thus more appealing to the morbidly curious. Written and directed by John Allen Schwartz, the original film took the form of a faux documentary with a psychologist named Francis B. Gross, played by actor Michael Carr, presents the audience with a cavalcade of disturbing footage showing different gruesome ways of death from various sources. While there were a few bits of genuine footage in the film, there's an aftermath of a deadly car accident that's for real, for instance. The bulk of the movie consists of staged moments. That didn't matter, though, as the saying goes, when the legend becomes fact, print the legend. And the legend of Faces of Death far outweighed its actual content. The cult appeal was so much that 5 sequels were spawned. Now Legendary wants to turn this whole idea into a feature film. Per THR, producers Susan Montford and Don Murphy of Angry Films are working with Issa Massey and Daniel Goldhaber, the team behind Cam, on a film that will revolve around a female moderator of a YouTube-like website whose job is to weed out offensive and violent content, and who herself is recovering from a serious trauma. But trauma that stumbles across a group that is recreating the murders from the original film. But in the story, primed for the digital age and age of online misinformation, the question faced is, are the murders real or fake? I don't know how I feel about this. This really, to me, reads like just one of those yearly horror movies that we get that's gonna like be a flash in the pan, come and go, and it's just playing off one of those yearly horror movies that plays off some form of nostalgia. Like you had the I don't even remember the name of it. You had the one with the cell phones, where I guess dead people were calling. You had the Eye, and just things like those types of movies. They don't have staying power. They don't last. I don't feel like this movie is going to stand the test of time. Could be totally wrong, and I hope I am. But the idea that they've presented here doesn't really blow me away. It seems like possibly a PG-13 teen slasher kind of light teen slasher flick that's going to come out in mid-October, and you're not really ever going to hear about it again. Like that movie that came out like a year or so ago called Countdown, I believe it was. Something like that. Probably, whether it'll either be awful or just, it's okay. It's good enough. It's a fun time while you watch it, and then it's over with, So I'm not really super hyped for this, but I was kind of hyped to see Faces of Death again. I remember seeing that movie because the nostalgia side of it does get me. And because of that, I probably would watch this movie just to kind of hear more about Faces of Death. Because when I was a kid, Faces of Death was legendary. It was epic. Who's seen Faces of Death? Have you? Were you able to get it? It's banned all over the place. They're going to ban it here soon. Did you see that one with the horses? It was so real. It wasn't. And we thought for years that it was all real, because that's what it proposed, is that these are real deaths. And I know that there are some real deaths in it, but like the article said, the vast majority of them are not. If you've never seen Faces of Death, it is worth checking one of them out, because I have a sneaking suspicion if I went back and watched them now, they'd seem really fucking corny. But maybe, but back then it was just like the thing of legend. This was the stuff of legend here, the Faces of Death. I don't think they had that many of them when I was a kid. There's probably like 3 of them. I don't know how many of them there were, but there was more than one, but it was, just Faces of Death as a whole. Have you seen Faces of Death? I remember watching with my friends. I know we saw the first one and the second one and maybe the third one. I don't remember, but stupid ass movies. I got one where the guy's like 4 horses pulling one limb each way, and it rips him in half. And it probably should have given it away when they ripped him in these 4 different ways, and you hear him screaming like the horse is like carrying him away, but it's like carrying his fucking arm, and that's it. And you hear him screaming like it's going away with the arm. I do remember that. That was the first time I kind of said, I think there's at least been some creative editing here. But yeah, this movie, and the only reason I included it here is because I saw Faces of Death, really. I had to read it. Faces of Death, man, that is what's more interesting to this story than me than anything, is the whole bringing back Faces of Death and bringing back those memories of it. Of just, not even watching it so much, just the talking about it with your friends and how it's like hush hush, and you thought you had seen something you just weren't supposed to see. So I am interested to see what they do with this movie, but as it stands, I don't see this being like, a great movie. It says it's coming from these guys made Cam. I've heard of Cam. I've not seen it, I don't think, but I've heard good things about it. So maybe that's, that could bode well for the film. We'll find out. I'm not sure if it said who's making Millennium Films. I don't know. I don't really. Maybe they're more independent, so maybe they'll let them do their own thing. So maybe we'll get a good movie out of this. I don't know, but we'll find out a little bit closer to time. I imagine this one, I doubt this one's going to be out by Halloween, and this seems like something they try and release around the Halloween time, so we're probably a good 1.5 years away from seeing this film. But you know what? It's Faces of Death. I have such crazy memories about just the whole enigma of that thing, so I'll definitely go see this just based on that. I hope it's good, but admittedly, as it stands right now, I'm not expecting much, but hey, maybe it'll blow me away. And that'd be great if it does that. So we'll find out come whenever the fuck this movie comes out. So, from one 80s iconic franchise to another possible franchise, it's only one movie as it stands right now, but we are talking about a possible sequel. Well, what was a possible sequel? One of my favorite, I guess, cult films, you would call it, of all time. We're going to talk about Killer Klowns from Outer Space, and more specifically, where the fuck is the Killer Klowns from Outer Space sequel that we were promised quite a while back and we've been wanting since the first one came out? Speaking on Slasher Radio via MovieWeb earlier this week, Stephen Chiodo, one third of the beloved Chiodo brothers, the trio of siblings who are masters of low-budget special effects, talked about why the most recent planned iteration of the Killer Clown sequel didn't happen. It was supposed to be called The Return of the Killer Clowns from Outer Space in 3D, but it turns out Sci-Fi didn't want to sufficiently invest in making it. I remember them talking about this. I was really hyped about it. They had like a mock poster up and everything of it. I was really looking forward to this. There was a deal, Chiodo said. MGM controls the rights and they went to Sci-Fi. They did 2019's Critters Attack and you saw what that turned out to be like. But they wanted to do clowns for like $2 million. And we don't want to do that. We did it for $2 million back in the 80s, so we didn't want to do it again for just that little amount of money. And even MGM didn't want to do it. They said it was a more valuable property than just signing off for that little money. But according to Chiodo, it sounds like the most effective way fans can help get a sequel made is to let MGM know they want one. Don't harass anyone at MGM about it. Maybe just tweet at the studio's account once and move on. That is all this story really has. Not much going on there. It's just pretty much giving an update on where the promised Killer Clown or Return of the Killer Clowns from Outer Space in 3D has gone. And I remember them talking about this, and when I read this article, I was like, yeah, that's right. They were working on a sequel. That sucks, because Killer Clowns from Outer Space is a great self-aware, like just it's a great cult self-aware flick. If you haven't seen it, it is as ridiculous as it sounds, but it knows it's ridiculous, and that's what makes it work. And it's got some great pseudo horror in it, if you will. I mean, it's got some great effects for $2 million, even in the 80s. The movie looks fantastic. Now, $2 million nowadays is not going to get you as far as $2 million in the 80s. So I get why they said, no, we don't want to do that because we don't want it to be a downgrade. I don't think they're asking for a $100 million budget or anything, but they're probably wanting a few $1,000,000 to make this thing happen. I mean, they are, as this article said, kind of the masters of the low budget special effects movies. So I think that they could make a lot of money go real far, because if you look at Killer Clowns from Outer Space and look at how much other movies of that era cost, I think you'd be surprised at what they got out of $2 million. But I would say they're probably looking for something more along the lines of $10 million or something like that, which I know that sounds crazy to people such as myself, $10 million, but in the movie world, that's nothing. But I think that $10 million is probably more along the lines of $2,080,000. So I hope they get this thing made. This is like I said, that's all there is to this story. It's pretty much saying, hey, it ain't happening. It's door's not closed on it totally, but for now, it's not happening. What they had planned is not going to happen. And I mean, this property is now 30 years old, I guess. Maybe even more. I think it came out in 88. So yeah, it's more than 30 years old at this point. Holy crap. So I guess we'll see. Eventually, maybe we'll get a proper Killer Clowns from Outer Space sequel. This is another, just like the last story, another property, another movie that really defined my childhood. I loved this movie. I thought it was great. I watched it. I periodically watch it every few years, and it's coming up on time for me to watch it again. And I just love it. It's just a great movie that doesn't get old. It knows what it is, and it has fun with it. It even pokes fun at itself. And it's just a great, fun movie. And I think everybody should check it out. I probably want to. I think I might watch this and do a review of it, because you just don't hear enough about it. And I think a lot of people even talk about Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and maybe they haven't even seen it. I don't know. It's definitely one worth checking out if you haven't seen it. It's really out there. Go into it understanding what it is, that they're not taking it serious. but they're taking the filmmaking process serious, but they're not taking the story serious. They know it's kind of a goofy premise, and they play with it and have a great time with it. So I'd really love to see this today. If done right, if made, because all these the three directors, these brothers, the Chiodo brothers, they want to do it. They were the creative force behind the original. They want to come back and do the sequel. So I think that would be great. We get more of it. I'm always down for more killer clowns from outer space, especially in 3D. I mean, come on, I know 3D is kind of, going by the wayside a bit now, but I'd take Killer Clowns in outer, or Return of Killer Clowns from Outer Space in 3D. Come on, man, that'd be awesome. But, well, who knows? Maybe one day. We can only dream. Now, beyond that, we're going to move into The Quiet Place, or A Quiet Place, Part 2, most specifically, and how things in A Quiet Place Part 2 are starting to get a little loud. This is an interesting story, and we have to, when going into it, we have to look at it. We have to look at this and understand this is a whole bunch of rich people that are talking about, that are going to war about this stuff. But we have to look at it from their perspective, and, they got a point. Anyway, when Warner Brothers announced that every one of its 2021 releases would be dropped day and date on HBO Max, several high-profile directors and actors did not react well to that news because it impacted the amount of money they could make based on a film's theatrical performance. Fast forward several months, and a similar conversation is happening again, this time at Paramount. Before I go any further, whenever you talk about actors, directors, people in the movie industry, and money, people such as myself, the regular populace, we're usually kind of like, come on, man, you got a lot of money anyway. That's not really the way to look at it, because regardless if we think that actors, directors, the movie business is overpaid or not, it's just like sports, athletes. They're overpaid too, but it's what they're paid. That's the going rate in this world, and we have to accept that. So I think that these people are owed what they're promised, regardless if that pay is grossly overpaid or not. If you're promised or at least led down a certain road, I think that you should be given that. I don't think even if, just because you're rich doesn't mean you should forego and you just be like, hey, I did work, but I'm not going to get paid for it. Rich or poor, if you do work, you should be compensated based upon whatever that market is compensating people at. John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, the creative forces involved in A Quiet Place Part 2, are in a battle with the studio over their paydays for the upcoming sequel, which will likely be significantly impacted by Paramount's decision to put its new film on the new Paramount Plus streaming service just 45 days after it debuts. In February, Paramount announced that it announced its plans to put big movies like Mission Impossible 7, Top Gun Maverick on its streaming service 45 days after they are released in theaters, instead of keeping the typical 90-day window intact. That decision also applies to A Quiet Place 2, and a new report from Bloomberg says that Krasinski, the film's writer and director, and Blunt, its primary star, are not thrilled about it. Their contract is directly tied, and this is the part. A lot of people have wondered, what do the directors and actors care if their movie goes, they thought it was a vanity thing, going to like theaters or going to home media. Here's why. Because a lot of the main players in movies, like this is about to say, tie their compensation to the movie's performance. They take a bet. They say, well, I'll take less money on the front end of things, like my salary will be less, but I'll take, a percentage of the box office. So they'll get less money, but with the opportunity of big money down the line. Like, I can't remember which actor it was. One of the actors, and James Cameron with Titanic, went in and said, hey, we're going to take very little money up front, but we'll get, a percentage of Titanic's, of how much it makes. And everybody said, oh, you're crazy. This movie already cost so much. You're not going to make anything. You're going to lose money. Well, that worked out in their favor. That made them a lot of fucking money. And that's what they're hoping for. And seeing as how the first one was such a hit, I think they're hoping for this. Well, they were hoping for the second one to be as well. Anyway, their contract is directly tied to the movie's box office performance, which in a non-pandemic time would be great for them, considering the 2018 original became a huge hit, making $341 million on a $20 million budget. But with some movie theaters still restricting their capacities and audiences not back in the habit of visiting movie theaters in person, they fear that people will just wait the 45 days and see it on Paramount Plus, which would majorly impact the amount of money they would make. Bloomberg says tens of millions of dollars are at stake here. Paramount has so far rebuffed their efforts to obtain compensation that would approximate how the film might perform under better circumstances. And the studio has also turned down a request for more money from Michael Bay, who is one of the producers on the movie, and who also stands to lose money from its shortened theatrical window. What happens with Krasinski and Blunt could set a precedent that the studio might have to stick to for the foreseeable future. A Quiet Place Part 2 arrives in theaters on May 28th, 2021. So right around the corner. Okay, like I said, this is a lot of rich people arguing about money. But at the same time, we have to look at it like this. They performed a service. They made this movie under the pretense, because when the movie was first going into production, it was pre-pandemic. They performed this service, and they were more like, they signed a contract expecting this thing to happen. And now it's not that, the movie came out and it underperformed and you thought it would. It's not that. It's that the movie is not going to have an opportunity to perform or not. And that's what they're worried about, because most likely it will not perform as it would have pre-pandemic, that's for sure. And I think in a case like this, if they're going to take the movie and put it straight on the streaming service, I think that's fine. I like these movies coming to streaming services too. It means I don't have to get out and like go see 3 movies in a week to see all the new movies. But I think that they need to, especially when it comes, now moving forward, contracts are what they are. But when it comes to, hey, we made a contract for this movie with the filmmakers prior to the pandemic, I think that they should maybe meet somewhere in the middle. But it sounds like Paramount's just like, no, fuck off, we're not, this is our contract, that's what's signed, not my problem that the world changed. And I think that's probably, I don't know John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, but it seems as if maybe that's their problem, is that you were refusing anything. You're refusing, to even look at it. I mean, why not Paramount come to the table and say, okay, since we are doing that, and hopefully it's going to drive subscribers to our subscription service, so we are going to benefit from it either way. Why don't we come up with something and say, well, here's how much projection said you probably would have made, but they need to understand, hey, this is pre-pandemic. In the pandemic, we need to scale that back some. Why don't we meet somewhere in the middle, and we will give you more money up front to compensate, and yada yada yada. But it sounds like Paramount's just like, no, fuck off. We have a contract and we're sticking to it. We can't help. Not our fault. Your movie's not going to be in theaters, and that's how you're going to make most of the money that you're going to make for your work that you did. So yeah, I think that's fucked up. I think from what I've read so far, it sounds like Krasinski and Blunt definitely have a case, if you will. What's interesting beyond this is all the other movies that they mentioned. Tom Cruise is involved in, and Tom Cruise is a producer, actor. He's a lot of things on these other movies like Top Gun and Mission Impossible 7 especially. So you're going to go and tell Tom Cruise now, hey, you're not going to get really much money for these movies, depending on when they come out and how the world is. I think Tom Cruise is going to come up and be like, no. Do you know who the fuck you're talking to? I'm Tom motherfucking Cruise, bitch. You don't get to do that. So I think once he gets involved, not to say that Krasinski and Blunt aren't big names in Hollywood, but they're not Tom Cruise. So Tom Cruise is going to come up in there and be like, no, you're going to do something. You're going to make some changes here, because he is a major player in Hollywood. He would probably be able to make something happen with this situation if they try and stick it to him like this too. So, I don't know. Time will tell. We'll see. I hope that Krasinski and Blunt don't get totally, screwed over on this thing. Sounds like they've been screwed over on this movie already. It was supposed to come out over a year ago. The movie has been done, sitting on a shelf for over a year. I'm honestly surprised it didn't leak. I mean, this movie, this big high-profile movie, has been done and sitting somewhere just on a shelf, and it has not leaked over all that time. That blows me away, really. But we're going to finally get it in about 2 weeks. Yeah, about 2 weeks we're going to get it. So we'll find out then. I hope that if they do get screwed by Paramount, I hope the movie does really well at theaters. I think that it will do well. It's not going to do as well as it would have a year ago, well, over a year ago before the pandemic. But I hope it does well. I hope it does some Godzilla numbers so these people can get paid and, hopefully make more great movies together, because I really enjoyed the first Quiet Place. But we'll see how this is kind of all still going on and happening, so we'll just see how it turns out. Yes, these people are all rich, and they're talking about large sums of money that most of us will never, ever see. But at the end of the day, what's right is right. Regardless if we think what they get paid is right or not, it's what was negotiated, and it's what the going rate in that world is. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be mad at them because they're rich and they're trying to get the money that they deserve, or that they were, have a contract for and were agreed to. So we'll see how it works out. Either way, I hope A Quiet Place 2 is a good time, and in 2 weeks when I get to watch it, I'm going to go to the theater and see it, and hopefully it'll be great. And from there, our last story of the night is about Borderlands once again, and its all-star cast and how it continues to grow. This movie not only has an all-star cast that is pretty bursting at the brim, just bursting at the seams with the amount of famous people that are in it, but for a video game movie, it definitely is. For a regular movie, it is. This movie's going to be huge. I mean, how do they keep getting all these big names? But they've got one more. Lionsgate's upcoming big screen adaptation of scratch all that, take it back to the beginning. But coming off of that into our last story of the night, we are going to be talking about Borderlands, the movie that's coming soon from Eli Roth, and how its all-star cast continues to grow. This movie is the most star-studded video game movie ever made, and it's one of the biggest star-studded movies period ever made. There are shit tons of famous people in this movie. How do they keep getting people? Well, I don't know, but they got one more this week too. Well, I don't think they got him this week, but we found out he's in it this week. Lionsgate's upcoming big screen adaptation of the video game franchise Borderlands already had a huge cast that included the likes of Kevin Hart, Jamie Lee Curtis, Jack Black, Cate Blanchett, and more. But there's one more addition that we've just learned about, and it's someone who has a history with the Borderlands games. During an episode of Penn's Sunday School podcast, Penn Jillette revealed that he will be shooting a few scenes for the Borderlands movie. In the movie, Jillette will be playing a preacher overseeing a wedding, and there's a fight scene that interrupts the nuptials. After the action is done, he ends up in a space paddy wagon with Kevin Hart's character Roland. Jillette said it's a very, very, very small part, and most of the scenes will be with Hart. This isn't Jillette's first brush with Borderlands, though. Both Penn and Teller made an appearance in Borderlands 3 as Pain and Terror, a villain duo inspired by the Magician duo. While Penn voiced Pain, since Teller is mostly a silent character, he didn't lend his voice to the game. Eli Roth is directing Borderlands with a script from Chernobyl writer Craig Mazin. The movie is only loosely based on the game franchise and follows a mysterious outlaw named Lilith, Cate Blanchett, who returns to the planet Pandora and is hired by the character Atlas, Edgar Ramirez, to find his missing daughter with the help of Roland, Kevin Hart, Dr. Patricia Tannis, Jamie Lee Curtis, Tiny Tina, Ariana Greenblatt, Craig, Florin Manatano, and Claptrap, Jack Black, fighting through its various monsters and bandits on a quest for unthinkable power. Borderlands doesn't have a release date yet, but production is currently underway, so we can expect it in 2022 sometime. Yeah, at this point, I know I reported on like the first casting deal they did with Borderlands like some time back, one of my first episodes, and it's like every couple of weeks I see another story just saying somebody else is added to the cast, somebody else. Now they got Jamie Lee Curtis, now they got Cate Blanchett, it's just like Jack Black. I'm like, Jesus, how many people is this movie going to get? It's Borderlands. That's great, but damn. So, yeah, now they've got Penn from Penn and Teller, which, I mean, he's a big, he's a star as well. He's not like Kevin Hart and Kate Blanchett and all them, but Penn and Teller are very well known. And he apparently had a role in the games too, so he had a connection already, so that's pretty neat. It's kind of a fan service thing there. I think that is cool. I'm curious about that. I'm really curious about this movie because I mean just all this cast. I mean, getting this many people involved with it. I'm wondering, what's this script? What did they read on here and say, holy shit, I just love it? Or all these people just like huge Borderlands fans, and they kind of were like, we don't care what it is, we'll just be in it. I don't know. Well, we're going to find out, I guess. I mean, some of them I could see is like Kevin Hart, Jack Black. They seem like they play video games. I know Jack Black has a YouTube channel where he does it. And Jamie Lee Curtis and Kate Blanchett, though, not because they're girls. I don't know. Maybe they do. They just don't strike me as they don't strike me as gamers. But maybe they are. Who knows? But yeah. The cast just keeps on fucking growing. They're already shooting the damn thing. The reason that we found out he was going to be in it is because he said, hey, I'm going to shoot my scenes. And everybody was like, wait, what? What? Your scenes? You're in that movie too? So Borderlands has, if they take that kind of like sense of humor and badassery from the games and insert it into this movie, I think the movie will, at worst case scenario in that case, be a good time. It might be forgettable, but it will still be a good time because that's what Borderlands is. Just got this really sharp sense of humor and goofy at times, but just like a badass kind of cool badassery side to it as well. So if they meld those things together just right, I think we could have a really good, fun film here. I do wonder what it'll be rated though. Because not that a rating doesn't always make a movie, but I think Borderlands would do really well being rated R. But we'll see. There's a really good chance it's going to be PG-13. But yeah, so this cast keeps on growing, and I feel like this is probably not the last time we're going to hear about this cast growing again. So we will find out as 2022 approaches and this movie approaches, but pretty much nothing but big names attached to that thing so far. So, yes, guys, that is about all I've got on the news front this week. I do, of course, have the releases as well. It looks like that Tuesday of this week, if you're watching the premiere tonight, there's nothing's coming out. May 12th, not shit is coming out. So there you go. But Friday, May 14th, that is this Friday, we have some big ones coming. We've got, of course, Spiral, the new Saw movie, finally coming out. Those Who Wish Me Dead, which I did a trailer reaction to on this podcast a few weeks back, is coming out as well. Finding You, not familiar with it. Profile, The Killing of Two Lovers, The Swimming Pool, all these I'm not familiar with. And There Is No Evil, not familiar with that one as well. The Djinn, it's Djinn, I think that's the Djinn, or the Djinn, I'm going to go with Djinn. I've heard of that, but I don't know what it's about. I'm assuming it's about a djinn, maybe. I've actually had some people recommend that, saying that they're looking forward to it, so I need to look into that. But that one, but definitely the big one this week is Spiral, and then Those Who Wish Me Dead is hoping to be the big one. This probably wouldn't have been the week I would have come out for Those Who Wish Me Dead. I'm just saying. Going up against Spiral. I think Spiral is probably going to be the king of this weekend. But we'll find out. Maybe Those Who Wish Me Dead will just come out swinging and be the next big one. I'm going to see both of them either way. I'm going to check out this Djinn movie as well. If any of these other movies that I mentioned that I said I wasn't familiar with, if any of you have seen them and think that they're just amazing, hit me up and let me know that I need to check them out. I would be more than happy to. I'm always more than happy to check out a new cool flick. Now, per usual, I do have a couple of trailers I wanted to go over, and this is the second week in a row that a new trailer came out the day that I was recording, so that's awesome. I get to look at something that's not a week old and have something that's actually pretty fresh. The other one's not as new. It came out a couple of days ago, but it's not as big either. But yeah, I have a trailer that just released, and it's a trailer that I've really been looking forward to. So this first trailer is going to be of Venom, Let There Be Carnage. And this is a trailer that we've all been, I've been looking forward to. A lot of people have been looking forward to for quite a while now. And we finally get to see how hopefully they improved on the first Venom movie. When it came to the first Venom, I thought it was okay. I mean, I didn't think it was great. It was better than I thought it was going to be, but there were a few. I had some issues with it. I thought it was a good start, but I really wanted more out of the sequel. And Andy Serkis is directing this one. This is his. It's not his directorial debut, but it's his first. I think he made the Jungle Book movie, which I thought was actually pretty good. I thought it was better than the other Jungle Book. Nothing against it, but I really enjoyed. I think it was Mowgli, the Jungle Book story or whatever. But this is, his first foray into comic book movies, and I'm really looking forward to it. So let's check out Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and hopefully, I've not watched this as of yet. I know a lot of people have been posting videos about it. I purposely did not watch any of my favorite content creators' trailer reactions to this. They're popping up all day today. So hopefully it doesn't disappoint. Judging by all their thumbnails and everything, it looked like they were pretty excited about it. So let's find out. So here we go with Venom, Let There Be Carnage. No eating people. What's wrong with chickens?
I say either, you say either, I say neither, and I say neither.
He looks like super fucking annoyed with
Either,
that.
neither. Let's call the whole thing off. Ta-da! Catch up.
Excuse me?
Yummy.
I like the humor going on here. They're really going into that.
Good evening, Eddie.
Hey, Mrs. Chen.
Good evening, Venom.
Function Hall, Mrs. Chen.
Oh,
He says hi.
that's pretty cool.
One is the loneliest number that you'll ever do.
I've been thinking about you, Eddie.
It's Woody Harrelson, right?
One, it's the loneliest number.
Because you and I are the same.
So I guess he got infected.
Every decision we ever make.
Oh, I like how Venom looks now. He doesn't look totally
Who do
different,
we
but
leave behind?
he didn't have that glossy look he had in the last one.
How do we leave them?
That was one of my complaints about his look.
Waiting in the darkness for the rescuer who never comes.
No, that was
Welcome
that
back, Eddie
was a
Brock.
spider? Was that like a
It's been a
homage
long
to
time.
Spider-Man?
Miss you so much.
It's crazy, motherfucker. Oh, so is this how he gets it, or is this?
Come chaos.
Oh shit! What's this one gonna be rated?
Chaos soon come.
Oh
One is the loneliest number that you'll ever
shit! I like Carnage. I like how he looks.
The chocolate delivery hasn't arrived yet.
No!
We had a deal.
What's gonna happen? You gonna stop protecting me?
I am happy to eat, Mrs. Chen.
No, you cannot eat, Mrs. Chen.
What?
Nothing?
That was pretty cool. All right, so Venom, Let There Be Carnage. That was pretty. I like that because, as I say with all trailers that I really enjoy, it didn't give away too much, but it gave me enough to get me titillized, if you will. I'm looking forward to that. I like the way Venom looked. I thought it only showed him a handful of times, like really in full-on Venom mode. I think he looks better than he did in the last one. One of my biggest complaints about the look of Venom in the last movie was he looked too glossy, I thought. He looked like plastic. And I liked the Venom comics way back when. And so I thought, like, physicality of Venom, the way they portrayed him there, and his, a lot of the things they did with Venom in the original movie, I thought were really cool. But that look just really bothered me. He looked like a plastic toy, just a big fucking plastic toy. Here, he was a little bit more muted. I like the way he looked. It looked a little bit more raw. I like that much better. It looks like he's just kind of got him out there all over the place now, and I like that too. We don't have to do the whole he's hiding it from everybody thing. It's just, I'm sure everybody doesn't know, but he's got it out there more, and you're not hiding it from him or from, other people. So that's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that. I guess his girlfriend from the last movie, I can't remember if they got back together in the end or not, but she's not with him. I guess she's not a thing anymore. It looks like they're playing into the comedy a bit more, and I do like that. I don't want them to go full on like, quippy MCU comedy or anything, but I like how it's got like some, like Venom was making breakfast and stuff. That was actually pretty funny. He like sprayed the stuff all over him. I guarantee that after that scene when he's like giving him this big meal, he'll give it to him and then he'll be like, okay, so you got to eat. Is it my turn to eat now? What can I eat? Or something like that. I wonder what this is going to be rated. At the moment, it's not rated. But I don't know. Are they shooting for a PG-13 or are they shooting for an R? With Andy Serkis, you don't know. Who knows? He's not opposed to doing R-rated content. That was one of the things we had said about, I think a lot of people said about the first Venom, is an R rating probably would have boosted it up just a little bit because a lot of those cutaway scenes they wouldn't have had to cut away from. And that could have been pretty neat to see because Venom is a violent character. It is what it is. He's an anti-hero, but he's a violent anti-hero. As far as Woody Harrelson as Carnage, I don't know as much about Carnage. I read the Venom comics because I thought he was a neat character when they first came out, and I got the first few. I don't remember if Carnage was part of those or not. I'm familiar with his existence, and I know he's just another symbiote, I guess, but I don't know how he became Carnage. I don't know any of that. I don't know anything about his backstory. I like the way the character looked. He looked similar to Venom, but he had a very distinct look, so you're not going to get him mixed up. That was one of the things about the last movie, too. The guy, I can't remember what the villain's name in that was, but he was too similar to Venom. He, like, in that end part, when it was just like a looked like somebody puked a bunch of CGI out on the screen, and he was it was just like everywhere. It didn't really, you couldn't really tell what was going on. Hoping they don't do that again this time. Now we got Andy Serkis in charge now, and Andy Serkis definitely knows his effects. So I'm thinking that if nothing else, the movie is going to look really damn good. Hopefully, because Andy Serkis, everything he's directed, because he's directed, like, been second unit director on some movies as well. Everything he's done directing wise has been pretty solid. So I'm hoping that we get a pretty solid story here and a fun movie with, a bit of humor. It doesn't have to be humor infused throughout, but just a bit of humor, some cool action. And I wouldn't mind it being rated R. I'm pretty sure it's going to be PG-13, but I wouldn't mind an R rating and a little bit more violence. Why not? I really like what I saw. Didn't show too much, like I said. I got to see this new look of Venom, which is kind of just a revision of the old one, and it seems like they got rid of the thing that I didn't like, the ultra glossiness. And Carnage I thought looked pretty cool, and Woody Harrelson, I don't know if that's how Carnage acts in the comics. Once again, I'm not familiar enough with the character, but I liked how Woody Harrelson was acting kind of a little bit nutty, but a subdued nuttiness. And I'd like to see how he's going to, is Carnage just going to be evil, just a bad guy to be bad, or is he going to have personality? Are we going to get just, bad guy who's bad, or are we going to get somebody like the Joker who has depth, and we understand why they're doing what they do? We might not agree with it, but we understand it, and they're somewhat relatable. I hope they go that route. I hope they give Carnage a bit of personality, and it looks like Woody Harrelson had some personality there in the first part of the movie. I'm hoping that carries over, and we get some of him with Carnage popping out and all that, and, talking to him kind of like Venom does with Eddie Brock. So I think that would be a cool dynamic to have these two characters that clearly have similar powers, using them in those same ways. And I hope he just doesn't turn into Carnage and then is just, running around destroying shit because, he's the bad guy. But we'll find out in September. Looks like it's coming out September 25th or something, I think it said. Whatever it said there at the end. I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to having a good time with this one. After that wonderful trailer, I got one more trailer to look at. This is a bit of a shorter one, and it's for an older movie that is just now finally coming out. I did a report on this. It's been a few months back now. I guess it would have been quite a few episodes back, but that is on George A. Romero's lost film, The Amusement Park. He made this movie in 1974, 4 or 2, something. This is in the early 70s, early to mid 70s, and it was thought to be lost. It was discovered by Guillermo del Toro a few years back, and they've been restoring it. It's finally restored, and they're releasing it on Shudder, and we got our first trailer of it just a couple of days ago. I've not watched this one either. I saw that the trailer came out, but I wanted to wait until now to check it out, because I did, debut this story sometime back that the movie was coming out finally. So without any further ado, let's take a look at George A. Romero's lost film, The Amusement Park. Oh, 1973. That's 74.
Too young,
Shudder
lover.
exclusive.
You want your fortune told.
We want to see what our life is going to be like
What part of life?
when we get old.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You must
The
see
fuck?
it all to the end.
There's nothing outside. I'm going outside anyway. There's nothing outside. Nothing. One of these times, the door will open in your
What
life,
in the fuck is
and you
going
will
on
step
here?
into the amusement park.
Amusement Park is the scariest film Romero ever made. I know it has something to do with that old guy.
And curiosity for what you will find there.
Deeply cynical artist. Visually
The man in the
overwhelming.
amusement park is a mirror image of yourself,
It has something to do with his psychological state or something.
separated only by the passage of time.
Why are you punishing me like this? For heaven's sake!
Hello? There's nothing out there. I'll see for myself. Bye.
All right.
I'll see you in the park someday.
Okay. Well, that was weird as fuck. And because of that reason, I will definitely be watching it. So I don't know what I really expected out of that trailer. It's a lost movie from 1973 of George A. Romero, and it doesn't involve zombies. So, yeah, that's an odd one, man. It didn't give you anything. I do know from reading about it, a lot of it centers around that the older guy in the white suit and him either having a breakdown or some type of situation going on with him and his mental capacity or something. And I don't know if this amusement park is a real amusement park or it's some type of ring of hell or something. I don't know. So, but I guess we're going to find out when it comes out here. I don't think it said when it's coming out, but yeah, I think I'm definitely gonna watch it. I can't really say if it's good. I mean, everybody's raving about it. This does tend to be one of those movies because it is George A. Romero's, not his last film, but it's a lost movie from almost 50 years ago now. That's thought to be lost and it's been put back together. He recently passed, in the past, 5-6 years ago. So I feel like this movie, whether it's good or bad, will probably get praised. It might be a great flick, I don't know, and I'm going to go into it and look at it objectively, regardless of who made it and when they made it, but I do think that a lot of people this type of movie, they could praise it regardless if it's good or bad, just based on all the things surrounding it. And that's unfortunate. But I have heard good things about it from the few people that say, not personally, but the reports I've seen of people that have actually seen it. They say, oh, it's just like a masterpiece. It's wonderful. But it makes me wonder why the hell, if it was that good, why has it been lost for 50 years? It never got released. It was never released. Barely anybody has ever seen it. So I don't know. That's odd. But I'm looking forward to it just because I am a big George A. Romero fan. And I think that, it's kind of a piece of history. You want to see it, you know, and I want to see what it is. I'm wondering if once I see it, I'll be like, okay, that's why it was never released. So, because I haven't really heard that what's that story? Why wasn't it ever released? What happened? What was going on there? I don't know. But yeah, the amusement park. Not a lot to look at there. Really trippy imagery, kind of fucking out there. Very 70s. So I'm looking forward to it because I like Romero's 70s work. So we'll see when it comes out this summer. I'll definitely watch it and do a review and get back to you guys on what it was all about. Hopefully it's good. All right, guys. So that's about all I got this week. Coming up on the channel, as I've been advertising for the past few weeks, but I have been saying with the caveat that, you know, it's a few weeks out. I do have my all video game movies ranked video coming very soon. I'm still working on it. It's a long video, 60 movies in all in one video. A review of Cerebrum was supposed to come out last week. It will be coming out this week. The Virtuoso, Wrath of Man, and my comic book movie review series is starting soon in the next few weeks at some point. And of course, I have more than that coming as they come out. I have been trying this past week to get back into the swing of things and taking the channel back to basics and focusing more on just reviews and not so much of the other stuff, and gotta get back into that swing of things. So you will be seeing more reviews from the channel starting as of watching this. It should be back to normal like it was a few months back. This week on Retro Wednesday, I will be playing Halo Anniversary, the Halo Combat Evolved, the first Halo, the Anniversary version on the Master Chief Collection. Depending on how that goes, I may continue to play it, play through all of them up to the release of Halo Infinite. That's later this year at some point. I don't know if they have a date yet or not, but that is about all I've got for this week. Hopefully we didn't go too long. Didn't hit that 2-hour mark as of yet, so that's a plus, but hopefully I was able to condense a little bit of it. Hopefully things were a bit more cheery this episode and not as much negativity. I know I had that one little story there with Seth Rogen I wanted to talk about, but I really wanted to talk about that thing. I hate that people are being persecuted without any type of proof, and we're giving judgment before there's even a trial nowadays, and that just really bothers me. I'm not going to get into it again, but hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. Hopefully you will maybe go, if this is your first time here, go back and watch some of the old episodes. Definitely check it out. It comes out it premieres on YouTube on my channel, Jacob Anders Reviews, every Tuesday evening at 9 o'clock Central Time. Come by, hang out, talk in the chat for a while we watch this thing. I'm usually there editing a video in the background or something while talking to all you guys. Also, you can check it out on all major podcasting platforms, be it iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Spotify, all of them. If it does happen to not be on one that you prefer, let me know and I will definitely get it on there. It's a fairly easy process. Or if you're having trouble finding it, just let me know. It should just be under JARcast or Jacob Anders Reviews. Search either of those and it should pop right up. But yeah, go ahead. If you don't, check that audio version out. I am wanting to maybe start promoting this podcast up a bit more, because if nobody's listening to it, then it won't be advertised to anybody. So if you are so inclined, go to your favorite podcast provider and check out my little humble podcast and maybe give it a few minutes listen if you could. But beyond that, that is it, ladies and ghouls. I will be back here next week on Tuesday and throughout the week. Of course, I do have, as I mentioned a moment ago, more reviews coming and stuff like that. Of course, every Wednesday you can find me on the channel, Jacob Anders Reviews, playing a game, sometimes old, sometimes new, always entertaining, I hope. And other than that, that's all I got. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to see you next week.